Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's roll, baby.
All right. Interesting. This kind of came up a little bit in the mailbag. Different, but same. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Marcus Freeman has been named to the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award watch list.
A great honor, but it's just a watch list. That's what I would say. You know what I mean? Like, I think he deserves some recognition to have his team where they are. They're on the precipice of the college football playoff. They are, talked about a lot when people are projecting what the playoff is going to look like. There's obviously 130 plus teams in the FCS, and Notre Dame is one of those teams. So I give him a lot of credit. So I'm glad he's in the discussion. I just wouldn't make him a finalist at the moment because I think they lost to NIU, and I think it was due to coaching. I think that's on him. So I can't give him a Coach of the Year award when that happened.
I was honestly a little bit surprised to see it because, we were going through some of the other coaches who make natural sense in terms of being able to, to potentially win an award like this. Mario Cristobal, his team is undefeated down at Miami. A pretty good turnaround for them. You've got Iowa State, you've got Signetti down at Indiana. Like even the SMU coach, I think, is probably in the mix. And then you can probably throw the Service Academy coaches in there as well. And that's not even mentioning, guys like Dan Lanning and Sarkisian up at the top of the polls right now with undefeated teams. So like the first thing I thought about, I'm just being honest, is a coach who lost to Northern Illinois is on the Coach of the Year award watch list. It's it's not a shot at him. It's just truth. It's the first thing that came to mind. The criteria for the Bear Bryant Award says honoring contributions that make the sport better for athletes and fans alike by determining grit, integrity, and a winning approach to coaching and life, both on and off the field. So there's sort of some,
off the field stuff,
intangible, off the field type things that mix into this. It's not just X's and O's and who's the best coach and all that. Like they're taking some other things into account. Like when you look at those things, I think that Marcus Freeman probably does fit those criteria better than some of these other coaches, like just straight up win-loss record and that kind of thing.
No, I think that's fair. I do. I think that's absolutely fair. Which is why he's on the list.
Yeah.
But I still wouldn't have him winning.
You've always been a closet Miami Cristobal fan, haven't you? That's what it is. Well,
I think they're going to get their comeuppance at some point.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and throw this one from Shaquille Oatmeal in there, getting in late. Notre Dame opens with A&M next year. It's a home game, but is that going to be a loss?
First of all, that game is on September 13th. It will not be the home opener. That's not going to be the home opener. There are numerous games, all the ACC games to be precise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that are TBA as far as the dates. 1 or 2 of those will precede the Texas A&M game. So it won't be so just point of order, they're not going to open up with A&M next year. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
The second part of this, I have no idea. Like
we don't even know. Like, look at all the linemen that we talked about. Who's going to be the quarterback next year? All those different things.
Right.
Like,
so they're way like, okay, hey Sean, does Benjamin Morrison come back next year? Like there are so many intangibles between now and then. Look, Notre Dame beat them this year on the road. I think they can beat them again at home. So no,
I think they can, but like I felt like going into this year's game, since it was a season opener and first game for Elko and all those different things, I felt like even as a road game, I liked the idea of, like I had more confidence in this year's game because of all those things, because it was a new head coach and their first game and all that different kind of stuff. Like felt better. Like to me, I like Elko with a year, his program under his belt and all those different kind of things. Now he's probably going to have a different quarterback next year as well. He might anyway. So I just think that's way too far away to be trying to make those kind of predictions right now.
Look, there's a lot of people that want, CJ Carr to be the quarterback next year. There's a lot of, Kenny Minchie fans out there. Let's all be honest. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Number one, we don't know what the offensive line is going to look like. There's a lot of things that we don't know going into next year. So let's just get through this year would be my suggestion.
I like it. Okay, so a couple quotes came out of the media session, the Notre Dame media session after practice last night. Some interesting ones. Some guys talking about Gabe Rubio, who, of course, came back for the Irish last week against Stanford. Here's what Rylie Mills had to say about Rubio. Quote, "When Rube goes in, there's going to be chaos. I don't know where it's going to happen, but if he's in there, someone's getting put on their butt or something's going to happen." End quote. That's from Rylie Mills. Here's what Al Golden said about Rubio. Quote, "He's just a rolling ball of nails and loves the game." End quote. So what does all that say to you, Vince?
Means he's a perfect defensive player. Like if somebody said that about an offensive player, I'd be like, I don't know about that. But as a defensive player, I want chaos, man. Like and that's what I want up front. I want chaos. And because that chaos benefits the defense. And so I freaking love it. I want so much more of that on a regular basis on this defense.
Absolutely. Like rolling ball of nails. Like think about that little spike ball rolling in the middle of the defensive line and he's chaos and someone's getting put on their butt. I mean, that's what they needed. I think they needed a little more edge in the middle of the defensive line, and he gave them some edge for sure. And like when you hear both the defensive coordinator and the guy playing next to him talk about it, it's awesome. And it's like rolling ball of nails doesn't really fit naturally, doesn't go well on a t-shirt, but it's a great calling card. Like this guy is a rolling ball of nails. And it made me think of some of the great nicknames, like Mean Joe Green,
sure,
Hitman, Tommy Hearns, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I was trying to think like rolling ball of nails. Is it like can you think of an all-time nickname that would top that? Because like even the ones that I just mentioned, like ball of nails, like it's kind of hard to beat.
Right? Yeah, no doubt. Love it.
Okay, so I've got a comment here from Riley Leonard from after the game the other day. He was talking about RPOs and all the RPOs that they used against Stanford.
Their defensive structure, we knew we'd have to take advantage of that. They were going to load the box up, and if we can never get a little run fake here, run fake there, and collapse that defense, we're going to win our one-on-one matchups on the outside. So nothing crazy, nothing rocket science, just simple RPOs. But when they're done and executed so often, you become very comfortable with it, and you're able to execute it pretty well.
That was probably the most RPOs we've seen Notre Dame use in a game this season. Do you buy or sell just making more RPOs a staple of the Irish offense?
Oh, it's a huge buy. I mean, and I think they figured out, because a lot of the RPOs early on in the season were RPOs to the outside. You know what I mean? They were outside routes. They were bubbles. They were things of that nature. Now, the ones that we saw on Saturday were more like slants and inside routes and things like that, allowing him to keep his eyes forward and on the middle of the field and things like that. I think that is the sweet spot for Riley Leonard. I think he's really good at those, clearly. Hopefully he can continue that. But I think those are the ones he's most comfortable with. They're a little bit more high risk than the ones where you're throwing it to the outside. But I think he does well with those. And like, again, they had RPOs, but this is the more obvious, even like more elementary, to be perfectly honest with you. They're not overthinking these RPOs. He's right. They're not difficult, but when executed properly, they're deadly. And that's exactly what you want. And if he can continue to execute them in the manner that he executed them on Saturday, absolutely you want that to be a staple in your offense.
I would have to think so. We've got a couple buys and, a sell in here in the chat. And it just feels like watching him, like you said, the kind that they were doing. Now, he did say, and Marcus Freeman has said it as well, that there was some opponent specific to the Stanford defense to it. But still, it just feels like with Riley Leonard's skill set and the comfort level he showed running them and the rhythm that he was able to get into, it seemed like running them. It just feels like it makes a lot of sense. Because I just, again, every defense is going to be a little bit different, but I can't see most teams playing Notre Dame defensively a whole lot different than what Stanford was doing the other day. You know what I mean? Just like with the general philosophy, crowd the line of scrimmage and all that different kind of stuff. It feels to me like it's the best bet. It always puts him in a much better situation, with his decisions. Everything was just much quicker, crisper, the whole thing. And I mean, he completed 73% of his passes. So it's kind of hard to argue with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And ended up with over 200 yards for the first time. So this is a question from Andre Tonsel, regular listener, of course. He tweeted this at me the other day. He said, "What is the culture to college football? Because I see it being a difficult question to really answer because every team has a different idea of what it is for their team." So how would you answer that, Vince?
Oh, this is a tough one because culture is different, I think, for every team, and I think it's different for every program. It's different for every head coach. You have to find, and I think it's different from year to year for each coach. I think you have to find what works with each team, and that's not an easy thing to do, which is why you have culture issues sometimes with the same head coach. You know what I mean? Like one year it can work great, and then the next year something's a little off, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
And so that's kind of the nuances of being a really, really good coach. You've got to be able to feel out your team, find out what that team needs from a culture standpoint, and then just drive those points home. That's not easy to do. It's really, really difficult to do. So,
and then you combine that with things like player leadership and empowerment and all those different kind of things. And you're absolutely right. It does change from year to year because you've got so much constant turnover in college football. And then you add things like the transfer portal into it. And I think it's really hard, and maybe there was some of that in the early part of this season.
I think there was. I think there was
all the newness on this team.
I think there was. I think he's got his pulse a little bit more on this team than maybe he thought he did early on. And I think that's a fair thing to say at this point. And hopefully he's got that fixed, moving forward. But on the other side of that, if we're talking about Notre Dame specifically, it's not hard to be focused for these games because if they lose one game, their season is over for what they want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's a little easier to gain focus when that's the case. So again, the whole culture question is a loaded one, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's not even one that I think even great coaches can put into words. It's something that you feel. It's something that you just kind of immerse yourself with and, get to know your team on and off the field. What are they good at? What do they do? What's their off-field stuff like? So, I mean, it's just such a loaded question. And that's why the great cultures are few and far between because it's hard. It's really hard to do.
I would agree with that. Tyler just threw us in a super chat. Woo! What would you have done if you were the player from Mississippi State that got shoved by Kirby Smart? I would have done exactly what he did. Just turn and walk away. What are you going to get into it with the head coach?
What do you want him to do? Throw a punch?
Right.
That's not going to solve anything. So no, you turn around and you walk away and you be the bigger man. You as the 20-year-old or however old that kid was, you walk away from the adult that's acting like a child. That's what you do.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely agree with that. Okay. Fill in the blank. There are some people who take offense with Oregon head coach Dan Lanning saying he intentionally put 12 men on the field near the end of his win against Ohio State to let a few more seconds tick off the clock. You feel blank about it.
Conflicted, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's not like he did anything wrong. I mean, they flagged him for it. He got penalized for it. I mean, that he did what happened. What he's claiming is that he had 12 on the field for a reason, and he knew what the outcome was going to be. I don't know that I buy all of that.
That's what I was saying. Do you believe it? Like, do you believe that he was actually,
I don't believe it.
He was ready to fully take credit for it. Like,
absolutely.
I was a little bit, like you really thought that far ahead that like you're going to run an extra man out there on the field because it's going to tick off a few seconds.
He had 48 hours to come up with a really good answer to that question. And, he did. He had a good answer to it. I just don't think I believe it. But
if he actually was, did have that kind of foresight and thought about it that quickly, power to him. Like, I've got no problem with it.
I don't either.
They did change the rule. Did you see that?
No.
They changed the rule today. Like the NCAA sure moved quickly on this. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Which to me is pretty bogus. How do you change a rule in the middle of a season?
Right.
Like, to me, you've got to just kind of live with it for the rest of the year. You don't change a rule in the middle of the season.
So now it's a dead ball foul so that the time won't tick? Is that what they changed?
So let me find it for you here real quick, what the write-up was.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The headline is NCAA closes loophole. Where did it go? I just clicked on this story. It disappeared. Okay. NCAA issues interpretation to restore time on the 12-man. So the NCAA is closing the loophole used by Oregon to shave time off the clock at the end of the win over Ohio State in a release Wednesday. The NCAA issued new rule interpretations on how to handle a penalty for 12 players on the field in the final 2 minutes of either half. If the defense has 12 players actively participate in the down, the offense can choose, along with the 5-yard penalty, to have the game clock reset to the time that had been displayed at the snap of the football.
Oh, interesting. So they get like a free play, basically.
Right.
I don't know that I like that rule, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know.
But again, the fact that you're going back and changing it now just because someone says they took advantage of it.
Welcome to the NCAA.
That was your rule before. Why was it in their eyes a good rule before, but now somebody actually uses the loophole and now it's a bad rule, so we got to change it in the middle of the season? I don't buy that.
That's the definition of the NCAA, the reactionary NCAA, right there. Like, definition. Oh my God, something happened. We better change it. Yeah.
The Irish English responded to the question before about the Mississippi State quarterback. He said the better question is, what would you have wanted to do? Well, obviously, I would have wanted to just turn around and socked him in the face.
Absolutely.
But that's 100%. That's not what I would have done.
Time and place, man. Time and place.
That's right.
And from what I saw, the player did the absolute right thing and just turned and walked away. So give him all the credit in the world.
For sure.
Because it was a heightened event. So, yeah.
That's right.
Crazy.
So we were talking about Tom Brady the other day.
Nuts, by the way.
Yeah. So because Tom Brady has been approved as a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, his access as a TV analyst working for Fox is now going to come with many more restrictions than are placed on other analysts. Here are the restrictions that Brady will have. He's not allowed in another team's facility. He can't watch practices. He's not allowed to attend broadcast production meetings, either in person or virtually. And he also cannot publicly criticize game officials or other teams. So I guess you can kind of go whichever other directions you want with this, but do you think that Brady can effectively do his job as an analyst with all these limitations? And are the limitations too much?
The answer to the first question is, can he do his job? Not well. Like you can't do your job well if you don't have all of that information. I'm sorry. You can't. That's
where you gain the insights from the coaches.
The whole point of a color analyst is to fill in the gaps and color the picture for people. And if you don't have anything to color it with, then what good are you? So can he physically do the job and just get up there and just talk? Sure. But you're eventually going to run out of crap to say because you have nothing to say about either team. So that's a problem.
And I mean, that's kind of already an issue for him right now. Like the depth of his analysis.
It's very surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very surface.
Very surface level. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't think he can do it well. He signed a contract. He's still going to do it. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it well. So that's part one. Part two is, should they have the restrictions? Yes, they should have the restrictions, because if they didn't, he would have a loophole of going into these other teams' facilities, talking to these coaches, doing all these things, and being an owner. Why would you not take that information back to the team that you own?
Right.
You should absolutely have those restrictions on it. It's just like my neighbors have restrictions that they can't just walk into my house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you here. Just like other people aren't going to want him in their facility. It's absolutely what should happen. I have no problem with the restrictions that are put on him. It just makes it super awkward now that he's an analyst. Like,
right.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. I don't have any, like the one part about it though, like he can't attend any of the production meetings either in person or virtually. Yeah. Like the virtually part kind of surprises me a little bit. Like, why couldn't you just let him do, like a Zoom with?
I just don't even want him talking to the other teams. Like, he's not even allowed to talk to the coaches and players.
And I mean, I guess I get why he's doing this, because why he's doing the TV, because Fox is paying him $375 million for 10 years to do it. So, I mean, it's a lot of money. I was surprised, like I think it's been probably about a year or so ago, when he obviously wasn't broadcasting yet, to hear after they had announced that he was going to go to work for Fox, that he was also pursuing ownership in the Raiders. Like, one, why the Raiders? I guess seriously. Other than it's Las Vegas, I don't know. But two, why would you want to like save that like at least a few years into this broadcasting thing? See how the broadcasting goes. You still got stacks of money, obviously, or else you couldn't be a partial owner to begin with. I was surprised that he's trying to do both of these things at the same time.
Look, there's always going to be availability for you to be a partial owner, a minority owner someplace in the NFL. I can't imagine. He was a Raiders fan growing up. He was a 49ers fan growing up, from what I understand, because he lived in California, right? So I don't understand the affinity with the Raiders. It was probably the team that had open availability for ownership, so he jumped on it. But again, if you want to be an effective announcer, why are you trying to be an owner? Like, that just makes zero sense to me. It's a complete conflict of interest.
He needs all the help that he can get being a better analyst right now, and taking away these things from him is not going to do him any good. So,
well, and you know what? Like, he's not allowed to publicly criticize another team or the officials. How are you going to be a color analyst if you're not allowed to criticize the team that you're covering?
Right.
Like, oh, that was a great play.
Well, and like,
Tommy got sacked 10 yards back. What are you talking about?
Where's the line in that criticism? Like going to the whole Jerry, like, I don't know how much you followed the Jerry Jones in the radio interview that he did yesterday. Oh, Vince, you just barricade yourself in the walls of Penn High School and you just ignore everything.
Jerry's always saying something stupid on the radio. What did he say this time?
He got into it with these radio guys because they were asking him legit questions about, look, you didn't make these moves in the off season. How much is that impacting what's going on right now? And then he turned it on them and told them he didn't need them asking him those questions. And basically, this is the flagship station of the Dallas Cowboys. And he does this weekly, interview with them. He's been doing it for like 14, 15 years or something like that. And, again, it's like, the questions were pretty legit, but who decides the legitimacy of, putting this back on Tom Brady? Who decides, what is quote unquote criticism and what is just a, like
being
typical
an
analysis? Yeah.
Like, is somebody going to be assigned to be listening to Tom Brady's broadcast and deciding, what's criticism and what's not? You know what I mean? Like, number one, I don't know why the NFL approved it. The NFL has to approve all ownership. I would not have approved that. But like, look, this is a clear conflict of interest. No, you can't be a minority owner as long as you are an analyst for one of the networks that is paying us money. Now, that is a conflict of interest.
There was something somewhat similar a few years back. I don't know if you remember. Jessica Mendoza worked. She wasn't an owner, but she worked for the New York Mets. But she was also doing national broadcasts on ESPN.
That's true.
So there was a little bit of conflict there, but she managed to to continue to do it for a while. She's not on those broadcasts anymore, but I don't know. I just think that I think that like he's trying to keep his Brady himself, it's like you're trying to keep your, foot in the water in all these different places. It's like focus on one thing and be great at it. Just like you did when you played football. Why are you trying to dabble now and do all this different stuff? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't like it.
Try to do both right now.
I don't like it. Post football Tom Brady. Don't like it.
Yeah. TD4ND made this comment when I started down the Jerry Jones thing. TD, you should have been here yesterday when Jesse was here because you knew we saved the Cowboys stuff for the end of rapid fire yesterday. But
they were all betting when the Cowboy talk was going to happen, and then you brought up Jerry Jones. Here we are.
I think it relates to what I was talking about.
I think it absolutely relates to what we were talking about. I don't have a problem with it. I enjoyed the conversation, Sean.
All right. Carlos wants to know, favorite fast food burger joint, In-N-Out, Whataburger, Burger King. Here in Texas, it's Whataburger. I have had Whataburger. Whataburger is pretty good.
I had it for the first time in January of this year when we went to Florida for a kicking camp.
Okay.
So it was good,
I
guess. Like, I don't know. It was good.
My last couple experiences with In-N-Out have not been that good. And I know, like, especially in Texas, where you have In-N-Out in some places and Whataburger, there's kind of like a big raging argument about which one is better. I would go Whataburger over In-N-Out, I would have to say. But my personal favorite is probably Five Guys.
Oh, yeah. You're a high roller. I can't afford Five Guys.
Five Guys or Culver's would be my two favorites.
Bingo. Culver's for me. I think Culver's is one of the better burgers out there. It just kind of melts in your mouth. I'm a huge fan of Culver's. That was going to be my favorite currently. I've never had In-N-Out because that's more like West Coast and the South, and I just don't travel enough. So I've never had In-N-Out. Had Whataburger. Obviously, I've had Burger King. I am not a huge fan of Burger King, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think Culver. We go to Culver's once a week in my house. It is a staple, and we all get kids meals. All 7 of us get kids meals.
My waistline could not handle Culver's once a week, Dario.
Well, and it's kids meal, so it's a smaller portion, obviously, which is why we all do that. Plus, you get a free ice cream, baby.
Yeah. Joe says Shakey's, and Joe is an Omaha guy. And I remember there were a few Shakey's around Kansas when I was growing up. I haven't seen a Shakey in a million years.
No.
I don't even know where they are.
So there was a Shakey's around here in Elkhart, Sean, when I was a kid.
Okay.
And one of the kids that I grew up with, so we were on a lot of youth teams together, his dad owned the local Shakey's. And so every time we would have a team party, we went to Shakey's and we hit up the buffet and the game room and the whole thing. So like Shakey's was a staple when I was a kid. And I remember it being really good, probably because I remember having a lot of fun with my friends there. But yeah, Shakey's, man, that hasn't been around. Honestly, Sean, that probably hasn't been around since the late 80s.
That's maybe what I'm thinking.
Maybe early 90s. Time I've
seen one. Yeah.
But yeah.
TD4ND going for the big boy. I remember we had a big boy in town growing up.
My wife loves Big Boy, and they were in Michigan for a while. And we always vacation up in Michigan, and there was a Big Boy in that town, and it was closed this past summer. I looked at my wife and it was like she lost a member of the family. Like she so looks forward to going to Big Boy for whatever reason. It was great.
Irish English from back in my stomping grounds, Salina, Kansas, asking about the Cozy Inn. And the Cozy Inn is basically like a Salina, Kansas local version of White Castle. But it's this small little... It's like, there's like 5 seats at the counter and it's like onions and burgers and they're all slider size.
Yep.
And I remember the first time we went there, I had never been there before. And like, my parents were, it was like, there was like this big outdoor party in the summer. And, like the other dad was like, hey, we're going to Cozy's. How many burgers do you want? And I was like, I don't know. 2 was fine, I guess. And they come back and they're these sliders. And it's like, I didn't realize they were these but like you buy them by the sack. And I remember a few years back, I went back for my high school reunion and we did like a It was like a picnic at the park kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I brought a bag of cozy burgers. It's like 10 blocks from my house, from my dad's house. So
Nice.
it's right there. You go in and you come out smelling like a giant fried onion.
Oh, I'm sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm sure.
Yep.
Oh, salty.
Oh, wow. He says they've expanded to Manhattan as well. Interesting. What's Salty ranting on?
Salty's getting personal. I'm going to let it go.
Salty's just always got that mind in the gutter.
Man.
Like, come on, man. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. We in, we out Thursday coming up tomorrow. The thread is up on the Champions Lounge. So submit your we in, we out questions for Thursday's show. And of course, we'll also have some comments from Marcus Freeman from his noon Zoom press conference. Interested to see what comes out of that, since there are kind of some more odds and ends to maybe tie up at the end of this.
Maybe somebody can ask him what the starting offensive line is going to be next year.
There you go. Burning questions. See how fast we can get him to.
Right.
All right. Smash that like button before you leave. Appreciate it. As always, good questions tonight in the mailbag, and we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.